if you want to play music, you can go ahead and get that started at any time. Do recommend playing that on a separate device. That way you can control the volume independently for my voice versus the music, but that's totally optional. Okay, so I'm going to head back to the mat and we'll start seated. So go ahead and if you like, you might want to sit up onto a prop. Give yourself a little boost. Maybe widen out the sit bones for a moment so we feel very grounded. All right. And then just go ahead, sit up nice and tall, broaden across the collarbones, lengthen up through the spine, through the crown of the head. And then go ahead and come into a nice abdominal breath. Maybe you might bring in some of the concepts we talked about last week with our breathing, breathing into the belly, breathing into the rib cage. And just start to establish a nice, smooth, even breath. So summer solstice, as we all probably know and have thought about, is this time in nature when we're at the peak yang energies with yin and yang, right? And there's this annual cycle where it shifts constantly. And so we come to the summer solstice where it's the peak of the light, with the longest day of the year, the most sunlight. And we know usually we feel good this time of year. We don't often get as sick this time of year, more vitality, more energy. That light is hitting our eyes. That's very much related to what we call the fire element in nature. And then as we go over the next few weeks, eventually the sunlight is going to start to wane. And as we get into September, October, then we're moving toward winter solstice to the darkest day of the year. So right now we're going to capitalize on this good energy of the summer solstice. We're going to bring up a little fire in our practice today, and then just kind of cool things off with a little bit of yin work as well. So we're going to bring our palms together in front of the heart. And just maybe take a moment, if you like, you could close your eyes and set an intention for this practice. So perhaps, thinking about what you hope to get out of this practice tonight, an intention, a quality you might want to cultivate. So just take a moment and see what comes to mind. Just stay with your breath for a few more moments. I'm going to share a chant with you. This is the Gayatri mantra, and it's often chanted at the time of the solstice. I'm going to do my best with the Sanskrit, and I love the Sanskrit language. I'll share that with you, and then the interpretation. So go ahead and stay as you are. Om Bhur Bhuva Subaha Tat Savitur Vareryam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Pracho Dayat. And there are many interpretations. The one I'm going to go with tonight is Divine Mother. May your pure divine light illuminate all realms of our being, physical, mental, spiritual. Please expel any darkness from our hearts and bestow upon us true knowledge and wisdom. Now from here, go ahead and open your palms into the lotus mudra. So we're going to keep the thumb and the pinky finger connected and spread the 3 middle fingers out nice and wide. So you make like a little flower with your hands. And then remembering what your intention is, let's offer it up and just reach that lotus flower up as if we're reaching it toward the sunlight. And you might even just gently tip your gaze and look up. Really lengthen the side body and reach it up nice and high. And then as you exhale, gently go ahead and draw it back down through your heart center and give a little bow inward. All right, so go ahead and release your hands and we'll come onto our backs from here. So take your time. If you feel like you need something under your head, under your knees, you have your props. I'm going to stay seated while you guys come down. And we're going to start with a breath practice. So yoga and Ayurveda are very much tied into what's going on in nature, right? So Ayurveda tells us that what's happening in nature is reflected within us as well. So we have this peak yang energy right now. And if we think about the qualities of nature, you know, summer is very masculine, sort of outer focused energy, very active. We feel like getting out and doing more things. While we're in wintertime, it's what maybe the opposite. So it might be more yin-like, more introspective. We want to conserve our energy. So we have these qualities called the three gunas. Summer is rajasic, and that's all the things I just said. Like our energy is just very outer focused. And then winter can be tamasic, so a heaviness, like we feel more fatigue. And then at the equinoxes, we're more balanced. So it's more of a sattvic quality. So I want you to think about your energy tonight. And we have two options for this breath work. We have energy channels that run through our body that represent these polarities of the yin and the yang, of the sun and the moon, of rajasic and tamasic. And so we're going to decide which nostril we're going to breathe through tonight, because our nostrils are tied in to the sides of the body relating to energy channels. And they also cross over and relate to our hemispheres of our brain. So if you are feeling kind of more of that summer energy, maybe you're even a little overly agitated, you're feeling rajasic, there's maybe some anxiety, maybe some trouble sleeping, we're going to breathe through the left nostril to balance out that overly rajasic quality. However, if you are feeling a little more tamasic, some heaviness, and you want to maybe get a little energy going for this practice tonight, you're going to be breathing through your right nostril. So think about where you're at in that continuum. And if you're more balanced, I would go with the left nostril because we're in evening time. And you're going to go ahead and take your hand up to the nostril you're going to close. And you're just going to gently press. And you don't even have to close the nostril. Just gently press at the cartilage on the side of your nose. And that'll block that nostril. And then I want you to breathe through the channel that you feel will be more balancing for you tonight. And we're going to do this for 3 minutes. So I'm going to put a timer on. And I want you to very gently, softly breathe through the nostril of your choosing, okay? And you're going to breathe both in and out through that same side tonight. So if you've chosen the left side, that's more of that lunar, moon-like, feminine qualities. It can be really calming. It might help you sleep better if you breathe through this side. And if you've chosen breathing through the right nostril, it's going to be a little more activating. It's going to bring up your energy a little bit. It's considered more heating. So making that choice and sticking with it. We've got about 2 minutes to go. So let your body relax on the ground. If your arm gets tired, you can even let the elbow kind of rest on the ground, or even stick a block under your elbow or a pillow if that's helpful. So as we progress through the cycles of the seasons, we start to reverse that polarity. So right now we're in the cycle of the summer solstice, the bright energy, and we're in more of the yang cycle, and eventually progress toward the yin. So we'll do a little bit of yin work tonight just to help balance out that strong yang energy present within us right now. So I'm going to give you guys a moment or two now here just to be in quiet as you continue that breath work. Last minute here. All right, go ahead and finish out this last breath cycle. And then slowly go ahead and allow your hands to rest down. Come back to breathing through both sides. And notice the subtle effects of breathing through one nostril. So maybe you'll notice a little shift in your energy. You take 2 or 3 more breaths there. All right. So go ahead now and bend your knees. We're going to do a little flowing bridge work. So make sure that your props are out of your way so that you'll be able to reach your arms up and overhead. Okay. So bend your knees, feet flat, and have your arms at your side. And we're going to do this a little differently. Some of you have done it with me this way before, but just kind of pay attention because it's not the typical flowing bridge. It's more the somatic way that I teach it. So we're going to start with some little pelvic tilts. So as you inhale, just go ahead, tip your tailbone a little forward until your lower back arches away from the ground. And then as you exhale, just take the tailbone a little up toward the knees and you're flattening your lower back. Okay, so you're not lifting your hips off the ground yet. We're just doing a little gentle pelvic tilt. So tipping it forward on the inhale into an anterior tilt. And then flatten your lower back into a posterior tilt. Just maybe you feel like you're initiating this from your tailbone. So tailbone tips toward the floor and then tailbone tips toward the ceiling. Okay, so let's do a few more rounds and then we're going to add on to this movement. So some of the work we're going to do tonight is create space in the body. We're going to do a little bit of more yin-like gentle back bending. Now, next time you come into the flattening. So as you go ahead and come into that lower back pressing down, go ahead and start to peel your tailbone off the floor. And you're going to lift the tailbone toward the ceiling and just go ahead and come up about 1 vertebra at a time. And see if you can start to come all the way up until you feel like you're on your outer shoulders. And then we're going to come down very similarly, 1 vertebra at a time. as if you're laying down a string of pearls, and you want to create space between those pearls. And then as your tailbone comes back down, you're going to come back into the little arch. So you'll arch your back like we're doing a cat-cow, and then flatten the lower back and peel up. One vertebra at a time. Now we'll add the arms. Take the arms up and overhead as you lift the hips up, pressing down into the feet, lifting from your tailbone, reaching through your arms. And then as you exhale, keep the tailbone up as you let those string of pearls come down, and eventually the arms follow. And you'll let the tailbone come down very last. Come into the little arch on your inhale. Exhale, start to flatten and peel up, lifting those arms, press into the feet. At some point at the top, you're going to come into your inhale. And then as you exhale, you're keeping the tailbone up. Maybe the arms stay overhead for a little bit, and eventually you're going to let those arms come all the way down at your side. Okay, so we're going to do 3 more rounds. And you know, if you breath, you can change it up if you want. So I usually do inhale, arch, exhale, flatten, and then at some point I start another inhalation as I'm lifting up. But you can change it up if it feels more natural for you to do it a different way. And it's starting to come down. Eventually those arms follow. Okay, so go ahead and do 2 more rounds. I'm just going to kind of peek in at you guys, see how that's going. So you want to create some fluidity in the spine here, also creating some space between your vertebra as you come up and as you come down. Looks good. And beautiful, nice slow pacing. 1 more cycle. All right, and now go ahead and pause, coming down. Separate your feet max distance and just take a little windshield wiper from right to left. And then we're going to go ahead and roll all the way over onto the side. Let's come up into tabletop position. So we'll go through a little bit of flow, a little bit of movement before we get into the yin work tonight. So let's go ahead, come into tabletop. Place hands under shoulders, spread out through your fingers. And we'll do a few traditional cat-cows here. So as you inhale, come back into that arch spine. And as you exhale, go ahead and round. So we're going to do 5 cycles. That's 1. Keep it going. Just watching out for the neck. Let's go ahead and make sure we're keeping the back of the neck long. Try not to kink your neck and throw the head back. And as you inhale, think about a little bit more of your upper spine moving into your body. And as you exhale, draw the tailbone down and give a little engagement into the lower abdomen. After your 5 cycles, you can go ahead and move back into a brief child's pose. So just take a couple moments in child's pose as everyone catches up, no hurry. Let's see if we can really extend through the arms. Maybe walk your palms a little forward, create length in your side body. And draw back through your tailbone, your sit bones, your pelvic floor. And then maybe see if you can reach the crown of the head a little forward, away from your tailbone. So create that length in the spine. One of the things my teacher always talks about is a thread of light going through the spine, this central channel of the body. So imagine you're inviting light and space into the length of your spine. Okay, go ahead and come back up into tabletop position. And we'll do a balancing tabletop, because sometimes this is called sunbird pose. So thinking about our sun theme tonight. Now, before you come into it, give a little bit of tone to the belly, so we don't want to dip into our lower back, okay? So keep that tone there, so you feel like you're not letting that lower back dip down. Then right leg goes back. And as you lift the right leg up, notice if your lower back goes in. And see if you can keep the hip points lifting up, the belly lifting up, and then take your opposite arm and reach it forward. And let's see if we could take about 5 cycles of breath holding your sunbird pose. So see if you can really radiate out through your arm, through your leg, through the crown of your head without that dip in your lower back. Push your palm into the floor and just hug the midline a little bit. So inner thighs gently hug in. And after 5 breaths, go ahead and release. If you need a quick break, you can move back to your child's pose for a moment. And just notice if that built up heat for you, right? So if we are a person who's more fiery, more rajasic, summertime can be challenging, right? Because we're already a warm person. We have a lot of fire in our constitution. So notice what the effect is when you bring up the heat in your own body. A lot of that's going to depend on what your dosha is, any imbalances that you have. So let's go ahead, try the other side. So go ahead, come back into tabletop position. Spread out through your fingers. Find that tone in the abdomen before you take your left leg back. And then lift that leg up to about hip height without that dip in your lower back. So if our hamstrings are weak and our glutes are weak, our lower back may compensate here. So try not to do that compensation pattern. Opposite arm reaching forward. And find that sense of radiating your length of your arm, your leg, the crown of your head. Both rooting down into the floor and gently hugging the midline. Stay steady with that breath, and after about 5 breaths, go ahead and release. And then everyone, let's take child's pose this time. And again, check in with yourself. What is the effect of building a little heat? You know, if we are a person that's always go, 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 and we didn't go inward in the wintertime, we pushed through, we didn't take any breaks, we might feel that sense of burnout as we get into the summer months. So practice self-care. Okay, so we're going to add on to that. Go ahead, come back up into your tabletop position. Take your right leg back. And again, making sure we're toning the abdomen. We're lifting that leg using your glute and your hamstring. Opposite arm reaching forward. Now, you might wish to tuck your opposite toes for a little stability. Some people find that's helpful. Otherwise, maybe the foot's flat. We'll inhale and find that extension, and then exhale, elbow to knee, draw in, and then repeat. Inhale, extend, exhale, draw in. And we're going to do 5 of those. So we're working with the core area, the solar plexus, the 3rd chakra, and after 5 rounds, you can go ahead and pause and either stay in tabletop or rest in your child's pose. Now, notice if you just went really quickly through all of that, right? So we can learn from ourselves. We can study ourselves. If we went really quickly to try to get it over with, right? Or did we take our time and use our good form and use our good alignment? Okay, go ahead and try your other side. When you are ready, coming back up into your tabletop position. Left leg extends, right arm, inhale to extend, and then exhale, elbow to knee, draw in. 5 rounds. And after your 5 rounds, go ahead and take your pause. And let's all meet in child's pose after that one. So even though we're at this peak yang energy, we've had a pretty mild season so far. We haven't had a lot of like really intense heat that we sometimes have. So I find that helpful because I tend to have more fire in my constitution. I'm a Pitta constitution, so a lot of fire and water for myself. But those of us who have a different constitution might like that heat and like that warmth. So let's go ahead and slide onto the belly from here. And we're going to try a different version of cobra. So I'm calling it the fingertip cobra tonight. So we're going to take our arms out to a T. So make sure your props are out of your way. And we're going to rest the forehead down on the floor. So I'm not going to do that because you probably won't be able to hear me. So rest your forehead down and you're going to come up on your fingertips and lift your elbows, lift your arm bones away from the floor. Okay. Now, before we lift the head, just kind of lift the shoulder heads up away from the floor and engage through your shoulders and upper back. Press your tailbone down and then lift the back of the head without kicking your neck. Tailbone presses down into the floor, come up to where you feel you can, and then release and turn your head to one side and relax it for a moment. Okay, so again, back bends are heating. They kind of bring up the energy. We're not going to go too intense with it because it is later at night. So let's just try that one again. So this is a milder back bend. Come up on the fingertips, lift the arm bones, lift the shoulder heads as the tailbone pressing down, and then lift the back of your head. So what I don't want to see you do is bring your chin forward and kink your neck. So back of the neck long, shoulder heads lifting, and then release and turn your head to the other side. Okay, so we're going to do that 2 more rounds. When you're ready, let's try again. Fingertip cobra, arm bones lifting, shoulder heads lifting, and then back of the head lifts up. Try not to bring that chin forward and then release and turn your head to the other side. All right, last round on your own. If you can use those upper back muscles. And then release when you're ready, let it go, and then go ahead, stack your hands under your forehead, give your hips a little shimmy side to side, relax your lower back, maybe pick your shins up, windshield wiper, very good. Okay, so go ahead, come back down, and this time slide your palms alongside your body, palms facing down. Again, forehead is going to be on the floor. And I'm going to talk you through it because I want to be able to be up so you guys can hear me. Okay, so palms face down is going to help you lift those shoulder heads a little bit more. Forehead on the floor. And then first, just lift your shoulder heads away from the floor. So using those upper back muscles, let the head stay down a moment. Tailbone pressing down, and then imagine your legs could reach the wall behind you. So lengthen out through your legs, and then go ahead, lift the back of your head, lift your chest. Maybe you'll lift your arms, but really keep those shoulder heads lifting. Good, and really as the tailbone presses down, it's almost like a lever. Then the chest can rise up a little more. And then go ahead, release. And you can either rest your head down center. If you'd like to turn your head, you could turn your head. All right, so we're gonna do that one again, starting with the shoulder heads. Lift the shoulder heads, then the back of the head and the chest. Maybe the arms come up, the legs are reaching long, and then maybe this time you want to lift those legs up. Keep the legs kind of squeezing in towards each other, like the inner thighs are magnetized. And lift from the inner thighs so we have no rotation in those legs. Okay, release. Again, observe, notice as we do these heating postures, what comes up for you. Give those hips a little wiggle, a little windshield wiper. We're done with that little sequence. Okay, go ahead and move it back to child's pose. And we're going to now bring up the heat a little bit more. Yin yoga, we call lunges dragons. So dragons imply some heat, right? So we're going to come into some lunges. So if you need padding under your knees, I always have a blanket down for this class because we're more chill in this class. We're not doing like a lot of vinyasa flow or anything. So I keep a blanket down, but you can put a blanket down under your knees. And I'm going to show you guys some options to keep this dragon from being like too fiery. We want to keep it more a little bit yin. So I'm going to grab a bolster and a block. If you don't have a bolster, you could use a couple of firm bed pillows, or you could do this without props, but it will get a little more fiery if you don't have props. So I'm going to put a block on top of the bolster off to the right side. And then I'll be stepping my right foot forward and putting that block under my right sit bone. So it's a supported lunge. Okay. So again, you can do the lunge without the props. You could put blocks under your hands if you don't have a bolster. You could use a couple of firm pillows underneath. You don't want them to be too squishy or you're just going to sink into it. So I'd rather maybe have you do it without the props than just kind of sink into it. I want this to be supportive, okay? So right foot forward, we're in our lunge. The back knee might be padded if that feels good for you. And then just find length through your spine, chest is upright. And we're gonna have some options for the arms, okay? Less fiery, the arms are gonna stay down. If you wanna go a little more fiery, we're gonna take the arms overhead, but they're still gonna stay in a supported way. So we're gonna take the arms overhead and cross the forearms, and then just kind of drape your arms behind the back of your head and let them dangle there. So I'm just gonna kind of turn around for a moment, maybe you could see. I'm just letting my arms drape, and that's gonna keep it more yin. Now we're gonna hold this one for 3 minutes, guys. 3 minutes, so it's gonna get a little bit heated, but that's what we're going for on this summer solstice practice, bringing up that fire. So if you feel too fiery, you're gonna let those arms stay down and not overdo it. If you want a little bit more of that challenge, you're draping the arms behind the back of your head and just let them hang there. It gives you a little more length through your side body. And then just staying with a smooth, even breath. You might remember that breathing from last week. Find your lateral breath into your ribs, your lower back. Try to keep the face soft and relaxed, especially your eyes. So we tend to really get fiery in the eyes, right? The eyes show our emotion, our anger. And the light, and the heat, and the fire element very much relate to what's going on in our eyes. So let those eyes be soft. You guys are probably about halfway there, so stay with it. So in the yin, we're finding stillness. We're staying with our breathing. And we're making sure that we're not going so far into a pose that, we start to feel like we're getting numb in any area of the body, little like pins and needles, any of those stabbing sensations. We want to keep it relatively mild rather than like super intense. So here's another check-in for yourself. Did you decide to kind of go super intense with it before I said all of that? That's a good indication you're a fiery personality, right? You got a lot of fire in your constitution. You're almost there. Probably about 30 seconds to go. You've almost got it. Can you stay with it a little longer? You can always choose to let the arms come down. You can always choose to come into a child's pose. Last few breaths. The more you stay calm with your breathing, you'll be able to kind of stay in this fiery pose. Okay, we made it. Let those arms come down if they went overhead. Now, stay in the lunge, but we're going to take those props out of the way. And you're going to walk your right foot over to the right and bring your hands on the inside of your front foot. Now, make sure you're not on the bony part of your back knee. You might want to kind of shift so you're more toward the fleshy edge. And certainly you could have blocks under your hands here. We're taking dragon twist. So 2 options. You can keep your right foot flat, or you could drop open onto your pinky edge of your front foot, coming into what we call the wing dragon here. So the knee comes out to the side. And then right hand is going to go on your right thigh, coming into a twist. Left hand could stay flat on the ground, or you could pop down onto your forearm. I kind of like that, then I can get off my wrist. And then we're turning into the twist. So twists and back bends can be heating for the body. They work with that 3rd chakra energy. So staying here. And this one we're only going to take about 1.5 minutes. So then we've done about 4.5 minutes of dragons on the right side. And after about 1.5 minutes, we're going to come into rest. Check in with your breath. Check in with the efforting. Can we keep it on the milder side? Always back out if you've gone too far. We're also working in hips here. Hips is more water elements, so we're combining a little fire and a little water. Not to mention the earth beneath us, a little grounding. So you've got about 30 seconds to go here. Last 2 breaths. After that second breath, when you come out of a pose like this, I want you to go super slow motion. So kind of gradually come back up on your hands, gradually step that foot back in. You might feel like you want to do a little hip rocking, a little circling, or a little cat-cow. And then let's go ahead and come back into child's pose. And we're going to finish out that last 1.5 minutes in your child's pose. And if child's pose is not a happy feeling for you tonight, you can always just come onto your belly and be in crocodile pose. So we want to find something neutral, something restful as a counter pose to those fiery dragons, because we have another side. At least we only have two sides, and then we'll be done with this part. We might also notice in these yin postures, do we tend to fidget and move around and get restless and feel like I want to just keep moving? So these are all different indications of, what our constitution is, what our imbalances might be. Can we find peace in the stillness? Last breath here. And then go ahead and start to make your way up, and we'll get set up for our first or more upright dragon. So you're going to grab those props again if you were using the props. Okay, so I got my bolster with my block on top, and then stepping into the lunge. See if you could support your sit bone on the block. If you need to, you can always use 2 blocks. You can put a blanket on top of the block if you don't feel like you're high enough here, okay? And then kind of squaring your hips forward. You could have your hands on your thigh, a little less fiery, maybe even drape down at your side, or cross the arms and bring them up behind your back, maybe switching the crossing of the way you did it the first time. Okay, and I'm starting the timer. We've got those 3 minutes here in this vertical dragon. And just noticing that heat that comes up for you, keeping the breath nice and calm. So another thing we might do here, if we feel like we're getting too fiery in our dragons, we could do a little Shatali breath. So we might do a nice, inhale through your pursed lips or even through your curled tongue, like you're sipping through a straw. And it's called a cooling breath. And then you'll close your lips and exhale through your nose, like the dragon, breathing out the heat, the smoke through your nose. You can kind of visualize that. It might be kind of fun. So if you feel like you're really getting that intensity in the pose, you might try cooling breath. Some people can't roll their tongue. So traditionally, it's with the rolled tongue. You could do it through pursed lips, like you're sipping through a straw. We're halfway there. You've got this. What's going on with the eyes? Can you keep the eyes and the face soft and relaxed? And that breath nice and soft. Maybe you're doing that gentle rain breath. And slowly and sweetly taking that breath in, even as the legs and the hips are in this fiery pose. Last minute here. Almost there. Last few breaths. So there's a lot of benefits to these yin postures. We're cultivating stillness in the body, stability. We're also getting deeper into our connective tissue. You've got about 2 more breath cycles. You know that you're getting, even though we're not moving, you're getting a lot of benefit in the tissues here. Okay, after that second breath, we're going to very slowly, remember, don't move too quickly coming out of a yin pose. Move your props off to the side. unless you want to use, the blocks underneath your hands, that's an option. The hands are going to come inside your left foot, walk your left foot over a little bit to the left, and then decide, do you want to keep that foot flat or come into the wing dragon, letting that knee drop out to the side. And then coming into the twist, either with your right palm on the floor or your right forearm on the floor. And then we come into the twist. So I'm not going to do that side because I'll be facing away from you guys. I'm going to check in, starting the timer for just a minute and a half. And then you get your rest time again. Okay, so remember those things, those little tips to help you through the fire. Maybe working with your breath, working with softening your face and your eyes to lessen that intensity. Maybe your cooling breath. Maybe about 30 more seconds, you're almost there. All right, last 2 breaths. And after that second breath, remember very slowly, the body's kind of a little more fragile after the yin poses. So want to move super slow, make your way out, and then maybe you want to do a few little things in tabletop, some hip circles, some rock your hips, or maybe some cat-cows. And then come back to child's pose for that last minute and a half. And then staying there for a few moments. So go ahead and just rest down. I'm going to explain the next option as you rest in child's pose. We're going to be taking a thread the needle pose, and we have 2 options. The less intense version is to do it from tabletop. The more intense version is to do it from child's pose. So if you like to go a little deeper into a twist, into a thread the needle, we can do it in child's pose. Otherwise, you're going to do it from tabletop. So you've got about 3 more breaths here to finish out your minute and a half of rest. And this will be the last pose like this, and we're going to move into sort of restorative yin combo for the next one. So go ahead and start to come up, and if you want, you can stay in child's pose, but if you want to come into table, you'll come into all fours. If you're doing child's pose, thread the needle. You're going to walk your upper body toward the right thigh, and then slide your left arm behind your right arm and let your head either come to the floor or a prop. Now, if your head doesn't easily make it to the floor, grab a blanket, a pillow, whatever you've got, and give yourself a little support. And then less fiery is going to be to keep the right arm on the ground. And a little more intense is going to be to take that arm and wrap it behind your back. And then we get a little more twist, a little more shoulder opener. And then those of you who feel like that's too much, you're going to do it from hands and knees. So maybe you're going to go from tabletop and take your left arm, reach it up, and thread it through. And again, that right hand might stay on the ground. It might wrap around your back. And then let's go ahead and go for our 3 minutes in this pose. So yin poses, traditionally we hold them 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes less, sometimes more. but I'm going for the kind of middle of the road here. So we're going to go for the 3 minutes. If you need to come out sooner and you feel like any, discomfort that you can't maintain the pose and maintain your breath, and you're just fidgeting and you're uncomfortable, you could try backing out, or maybe you just want to go back to child's pose. And then commit to stillness. So there's qualities of yin, that stillness, length of time, and keeping that sensation like manageable, right? So we don't want it to be so intense that we just feel like we got to get the heck out of there. We want it to be the level of sensation that we can sink into that stillness. Countering the tendency to be overly fiery, maybe in our lives, with this stillness and breath. So we're over halfway there. Stay with it a little longer. Notice where there's restriction in the tissues, resistance. Can you imagine softening through that resistance and bringing more breath wherever you feel it? It's different for every person, just depending on what patterns we're holding in our bodies, what our daily activities are like, our daily habits. About 30 more seconds. So we're going to take a few more breaths. When you do come out in a couple of moments, we can go back to child's pose. If you feel like you need to get off your knees, you could take a gentle down dog, or you could even come onto your belly into your crocodile. So take this last breath here, and then decide on your exit strategy. You're going to go super slow motion to come out of that pose. Gradually make your way into a neutral position of your choosing. And take a few breaths there. All right. So take your time. We're going to do that whole thing on the other side. So either your child's pose, thread the needle, or tabletop, thread the needle. If you're coming into the child's pose version, walk yourself over towards your left thigh and then come into the twist. And remember, do support your head if you feel like that would be helpful for you. Just be mindful of your neck. And then decide on your arm position. Do you want to keep that hand on the ground, or do you want to go for the wrap? And you can always release that arm down partway through. So if you can, again, observe the body, observe the restriction in your tissues. Bring your awareness, your breath there. A softening quality. So even though we're in a twist and we're, even still here, though it's yin, we're building some gentle heat. See if you could soften through it. Is there anywhere you might be able to feel a little more effortless? Can you let your body release its efforting? So in a true yin fashion, we're not trying to engage our muscles. Starting to let go of the contraction, the effort. Let yourself almost feel like a puddle. So we balance out that fiery nature, fiery energy of the twist with a little bit of softness, a little bit of water energy. Let yourself sink into the earth. About 30 more seconds here to go. We are running out of time already, guys. So we're gonna move through a couple more supported back bends, and then we're gonna go into our candle gazing. So go ahead and take one more breath. And as you're ready, find yourself into your neutral position. So take your time. Child's pose, down dog, or a crocodile. Become in a down dog, keep it kind of relaxed down dog. And let's take 3 more breaths, whatever pose you chose. Okay. So after that 3rd breath, go ahead and slowly come up. And we're gonna get our bolster or bed pillows again. Again, you want something firm here. It's just gonna go under your hips. And we're gonna almost do like a supported bridge. We're also going to have the option of having some props behind you to support your head and your arms. So I like to do like a pillow with a blanket on top for this, but you might be different depending on your body length and your range of motion. But I'm going to sit on the bolster. And then just kind of keep those extra props nearby. You can place them there. Maybe you're going to want to remove them. So it'll depend on your body here. And then I'm going to scoot my tailbone a little forward. So we don't want to have the tailbone sort of tucked in. And then come back down in your supported bridge. And then I'm putting all of this under my whole shoulder and head area. I have a pretty big pillow and a folded blanket. You could go also flat to the ground, okay? But the reason I'm putting it here is because I'm going to take my arms overhead, almost like we did in our dragon, and just kind of maybe cross at the elbows and bring the arms overhead. Now, for some of us, that might not be, feel as good. You could take your arms out to a T as well, or even rest them on your body. So you could stay here, or some of you might even like to extend your legs. And then we open up the whole front here, the hip flexor area, the abdomen, the groins, the belly, where we hold a lot of our heat right here in the abdomen, the solar plexus. We're opening that area up, okay? So hold that. We're going to stay for our 3 minutes. I would like to have done this one longer, but we're running out of time. So I think we're going to stick with the 3 minutes. So we have time for candle gazing and Shavasana. So again, you're making those choices based on what feels right in your body. Stay with that softer breath. And then just let your body drop. That sense of kind of being effortless, being like that puddle, and your body really land in this pose. So even though it's a bit of a back bend, it's supported. We're not having to push ourselves up into a bridge or a wheel, letting the props hold you and support you. So we could be doing this pose with a lot of effort, engagement, but tonight's practice is about being more yin-like. So can you find those qualities of yin, of softening, releasing that need to always be doing, right? So, and maybe we found that in the body, but we haven't found it in the mind. So can you maybe cultivate some of that softening and releasing in the mind as well as in the body? So last breath there. And then after that breath, go ahead and let your arms come down. If the arms were overhead, bend your knees, really take your time. And then you could roll towards your side and we'll come on up and we're gonna do one more version of this before we move into candle gazing. Okay, so we're gonna put the bolster now underneath the shoulder blades. So we're gonna move your pillows or your bolsters and now, so first we open to kind of more of the lower body now. It's gonna be more upper body. So placing the bolster behind you, again, you might want to do that little tailbone, scoop it forward, and then recline back. And you want to make sure that there's enough support under your head. So build this up to a comfortable place. Now, I don't mind it being a little bit more of a drop. I still have that pillow and blanket. Maybe the arms are going to be in that overhead position again. Maybe the arms are going to go out to a T, or drape them across your body. And if this is too much, depending on your bolster, like some people have thicker bolsters or round bolsters, it might feel like too much. You could roll up a blanket instead or do a tri-fold blanket. You guys know how to do that tri-fold. We do that I think we did that last week. So feel free, if you can't get comfortable with the bolster, to change it up. You don't want to be where you can't settle into the pose. So we got our last 3 minutes here. That sense of inviting space and light into the body. Almost there, about 30 more seconds. So we're going to take a few more breaths. When we come out of this pose, we'll do so kind of the same way, bend the knees, roll to the side. I'm going to have you guys come flat on your back for a few breaths just to neutralize. So last breath here, and then take your time. I'm going to come off of the props very slowly, mindfully. And then just take your prop out, just rest on your back for a moment. Give your spine a moment to neutralize after the back bending. We'll take longer in Shavasana in a bit, but just take a moment. And if it's hard to have legs out, you could certainly just have your feet flat, knees bent. Sometimes the lower back's not so happy with the legs out straight. Take 3 more nice, full, soft breaths and just maybe visualize that length of your spine illuminated, that thread of light going through the central channel. And then after about 3 breaths or so, let's go ahead and bend your knees. We'll roll to the side and come on up and find your candle. If it's not lit, you can go ahead and light your candle. I've put my candle up on my blocks, so it's a little closer to look at. If it's all the way down on the floor, you might have to hang your head down a lot. So you can put that up as high as you might like it to be. So candle gazing is a traditional yoga practice for concentration. It benefits our eyes. It can help increase the lubrication in our eyes. So it's called trakata. Hard for me to say that one. And there's a meaning for that word. And it's that which is broken yet continuous, creating a line of radiance and light. And it's fixing our gaze on something, and we're trying to intentionally look at the flame without blinking. Okay, so it might cause a little burning and tearing in the eyes, and we actually want to get to that little bit of discomfort so that we get that lubrication going in the eyes. And we want to maintain that unbroken gaze. So it can really help our mental capacity to focus and concentrate. Before we do it, we're going to just do some warm-ups for the eyes. So just sit up nice and tall. And we're going to blink our eyes about 10 times. Just real fast, blink them. And then just close. Now this next part you can do with your eyes open or closed. We're going to be moving the eyeballs around, like right to left, up and down, and circles. But you can do it with either the eyes open or closed, okay? So decide, do I want to have my eyes open or closed? Nice tall spine. And then either eyes open or closed, look to your right and then to your left. And then just go right to left a few times. So a lot of times our gaze is very fixed. On modern day, we're looking at screens a lot, and then we start to lose our peripheral vision. And it's really good to practice these eye exercises, good for the eye muscles to move those eyes in the different patterns. And then go ahead and pause, and you're going to do your blinking again. So 10 blinks or so. And then let the eyes rest. Now we're going to go up and down. So take your gaze up toward the forehead and then down toward the floor. Open or closed, up to you. You might notice, if any of these movements of the eyes are challenging for you, especially if you do have to look at screens a lot for work. And then go ahead and pause, relax the eyes, and another round of blinking. Let the eyes rest. And now we're going to do circles. We're going to do 5 in one direction and then 5 in the other direction. Again, eyes could be open or closed. And you might notice your eyes like skip a lot of spots. See if you could smooth it out. And after 5 times in each direction, one more time, do your blinking. And after your blinking, let the eyes rest. And we'll bring the palms together. Rub the palms together. Get that good warmth and friction. And then we're going to actually put the heel of the hands in the eyeball, in the eye socket, and gently circle 5 times in each direction. So don't put a lot of pressure there. It's really gentle, just kind of almost massaging the eyes. And then just once you finish those circles, cup the eyes, make a little space, and then blink into the eye cup of your hands. And then release your hands. And now we're ready. So it's just some warm up. So I need to find your flame. And we'll do the unbroken gaze. So try to concentrate on that flame without blinking until your eyes start to have that little mild sensation of tearing and or slight burning. And then close the eyes for a moment, rest. And then when you're ready, come back and do it again. So we'll try it a few times. So we're going to end just a few minutes late. Sorry about that. So throughout our day, we have probably thousands of images that we are taking in through our eyes. So we need to digest everything we take in through our eyes. And it gets processed by our nervous system. So if we're watching lots of like TV shows that are really active and like strobing and all those kinds of things, that has to get processed by our nervous system. So candle gazing is a way to mitigate the effects of all the constant bombardment of visual stimulation. We're going to just stay with it a few more moments. And each time you come back to the candle gazing, let the eyes start to just tear a little bit. And then have a couple of moments of resting the eyes. This helps our sensory motor nerves calm down, brings more of a parasympathetic response into the body, brings relaxation. And it's really nice to do at dawn and dusk when there's less external light. All right. So bring your palms together now. And then come back to that lotus flower. So open up the fingers. Remind yourself of your intention. And now keep the heel of your hand together and open the hands even more. So you're really spreading those fingers out. And we're going to do a little finger touching meditation. So maybe just close your eyes for a moment, go within. And we're going to do the representation of the 5 elements in the fingers. So the first thing we're going to do is earth. So earth is our ring finger. So touch your ring finger gently together and then separate. And then we go to water. So water is the little finger. So touch the tips of the little fingers together and separate. And now fire is the thumbs. Touch the thumbs together and separate. And then we have air is our index finger, touch and separate. And finally, the middle finger is the element of space. Touch it in the center and release. We're going to open the eyes now. Look at the hands. We'll do that one more time. So starting with the ring finger, touch, and you can see your hands almost symbolize like a flame. And then your pinkies, and then your thumbs, and your index fingers, and your middle finger. So each of the fingers represents one of those 5 elements. And then connect your pinky and your thumb. So we have fire and water. Open the fingers. Fire and water is pitta dosha. That's the heat and the fire. Come back to your intention and let's go ahead and reach it up overhead once again. Offer it up. Maybe gaze up toward the ceiling, toward the sky, toward the light. And then lower your hands back down to your heart. And a little bow in honoring that intention. Okay, release your hands and we'll come into Shavasana. So if you like, you can blow your candle out. You want to keep it going, you can let it go as long as it's in a safe place. You're not going to knock it over when you come up. And then grab any props that you like to be comfortable. Maybe you want to bolster under your knees or under your back. Maybe you want something under your head or to cover up with something if you've gotten chilly. Now, give you guys a few moments to settle in. So making any of those last minute adjustments so that you can commit to stillness. And now the ultimate yin posture, really just let everything go. Be like that puddle of water. Let your body kind of disperse, melt, dissolve into the ground. And then bring your awareness to your heart space. So there's a little saying that some of the yogis say that the power of the heart is stronger than 1,000 suns. So there's an electromagnetic field around our heart that gets projected outward. So imagine a sense of light in your heart, maybe like a flame, maybe like a palm-sized flame right in your heart center. So maybe not the physical heart to the left, but right in the heart center. And as you breathe, just imagine that light in the heart magnified, brightening, growing, expanding. Every inhalation, sense that feeling of expanding the light like 1,000 suns in the heart. And as you exhale, it's a sense of settling, grounding, softening. Every inhale, let that light in the heart grow stronger and brighter. Let it fill up maybe your whole chest cavity. As you exhale, just let everything go. Maybe that light starts to expand outward into your shoulders, your arms, your abdomen. Every exhale, allow it to subside a little bit. Maybe it expands even beyond your body, just illuminating the space around you. You might visualize all the yogis here tonight in their own spaces, everyone radiant with this inner light. It's always there. Even when things get dark and challenging in our lives, it's said there's always that thread of light within us that can be reignited. It's like that flame that we gazed at. Now, eventually, just letting go of the visual of the light, the heart. Let your mind rest, let your body rest, and let your spirit rest. In Chinese medicine, it is said our spirit, our Shen, resides in our heart. Sometimes that spirit is restless, anxious. But when we go within, the spirit feels called to its home in our heart and it can rest. So allow the spirit to rest in its home in the heart. So take a moment now and just notice the effects of the practice today. And you have a sense of any shifts. If you came in feeling really fiery tonight or really exhausted or any other qualities, notice any shifts now in the mind, body, and spirit. And just take your time to eventually start to move very gently. The breath become a little more deliberate, a little more conscious. And we'll bring in those smaller movements before coming over onto your side for a pause. And try not to rush back up to sit. Have that transition time. And eventually coming up to find a comfortable seat. And then letting the sit bones be broad, heavy, grounded to allow you to rise up out of the ground. Finding that lengthening of the spine once again. And we'll place hands together in front of your heart space. And I'll just repeat that translation of the Gayatri mantra. Divine Mother, may your pure divine light illuminate all realms of our being, physical, mental, spiritual. Please expel any darkness from our hearts and bestow upon us true knowledge and wisdom. We'll take an inhale and exhale, bowing inward. Thank you, everyone. Namaste. Thanks for honoring this solstice week with me. I hope you guys enjoyed.